Welcome in, people. It's a bit chillier here yet again, hence the reason I'm a little bit late, a bit slow getting myself going. There was another reason why I was late. I'm just trying to find it. Had trouble getting to my desk this morning, so that took a bit of coaxing. She wasn't happy because Mouse had basically, I have a spread of beds for Taka because she's old and arthritic and she likes the bed's positioned just right. So I have a spread of beds, but Mouse had gone through and basically reserved every single bed with one of his toys. And Taka didn't think she could lie down anywhere. So that's why we're a little bit late. I'd had to extricate a 30-kilo dog from under my desk. She's happy now. She's got a comfy spot. Good to see people coming in. Welcome, Sam, Kelly, Hugging Demons, Unky. So another Maddie Monday, or I know it's not Monday for a lot of you, but it is for me. So Maddie Monday, just call it as it is. You just have to bear with me on that. Maybe, you'll catch up eventually. It'll be Monday for you eventually. So welcome in, Ariel. So just a quick recap. I didn't actually put up the slideshow this time for Maddie's case. But for anyone who's not familiar with Maddie's case, Maddie was turning 13 back a bit over 2 years ago now. I can't believe it's already that quick. She turned 13 on the 22nd of February 2024. And then on that following weekend, the 25th, her grandmother threw a birthday party for her. The big, wonderful 13th birthday party. Super exciting. After her birthday party, her aunt dropped her off home because her mother hadn't attended the birthday party. Not long after Maddie got home, her mother's ex-boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, arrived at the apartment for a visit. He was there, according to Jenn, he was going to be there for about a week. I suspect part of that was to fit in with Jen's birthday because everything is about Jenn. And that particular night, Jenn finally got home from work, I think about 10:30, she said. She sent Maddie and Stefan upstairs to the guest room because she needed a good night's sleep without any interruptions. So she sent her 13-year-old daughter upstairs to share a bed with a 37-year-old predator, essentially. That's all we know about what happened, because Stephen Stearns didn't actually have to sit trial. He decided to plead no contest over what happened to Maddie. But something happened overnight. Maddie was strangled. The following day, Stefan spent the entire day trying to cover his tracks and left her lying out in a field out at St. Cloud. Thanks to a witness who happened to drive past when Stephen Stearns was changing the tyre on his vehicle, they were able to find Maddie. He was also charged with multiple offences over images on his phone. He's currently serving 21 life sentences, so he will never get out. While Jenn, the mother who sent her 13-year-old daughter upstairs with this 37-year-old predator, is still free. So hence the reason I am now doing Maddie Mondays, because I want to put the spotlight back on Jenn. I want to remind people of Jen's role in this. So welcome in people who've come in while I've been talking. Summer Breeze, Alana, Joel, Kelly. Yeah, like Candace Wells, exactly. It makes me extremely ill that she had no problems with her 5-year-old daughter sharing a bed with her husband. So we're here for Maddie. We're here to remind people that there were 2 people responsible for what happened to Maddie, not just one. And it's great that Stefan Stearns is never going to get out. It's great that he's got 21 life sentences. But at the same time, Maddie didn't get justice. And, to be quite frank, I don't believe it should be acceptable for someone who has taken the life of a child to be allowed to plead no contest. No contest is essentially saying, I'm not admitting any guilt. I'm just admitting that you've got enough things here to bring a case against me. So he never had to face up to what he did. Not only that, but he was allowed to give what came out as a victim statement. He was allowed to sit there and tell the world how much he missed Maddie. And do this big sob story. Poor Stefan. And neither the judge or the prosecution objected to it. It's just wrong. That was the biggest kick in the guts for me. The lead up to the trial, I was talking about the 2 prosecutors that were on the team. Both exceptional prosecutors. And yet, yeah, I know, Grover. I will never, ever come to a point where I can accept that. Not just the prosecutors that let her down, but the judge. He didn't even give a proper sentencing speech. He didn't even throw it back in Stefan's face what he had done. He just reworded a bit of Tyler's speech. He didn't even bother to sit down before court and write his sentencing speech. He knew this agreement had been made. He's the judge, of course he knew. But he couldn't be bothered taking the time to write a sentencing speech before court. So instead he sits down and clearly jotted notes while Tyler was talking and just gave a 1 minute, less than 2 minute speech that honestly sounded just like a recap of what Tyler had said. And then he sat there and allowed Stefan Stearns to do his little victim impact statement. And I was waiting. I expected that there was going to be some sort of response from the judge afterwards. But there wasn't. So, yeah, that was the part that made it so... Oh, yeah. The jailhouse poem makes me want to vomit. It really does. I'm considering doing a handwriting analysis of his jailhouse poem. I'm not sure if I really want to do that, though, in terms of what we could learn from that jailhouse poem. It's wrong. Deb should have been charged. She deserves to be charged. And I think people need to get loud. Maddie was a baby. Jenn stood by while Maddie suffered for 5 or 6 years under that mongrel. And then she sent her upstairs that one more time because she needed a good night's sleep. Like, honestly, who does that to their own kid? It's infuriating. Anyway, before we get onto that, I'm just going to quickly go back to Parker's case. This is a little 11-year-old boy in Alberta. He's autistic. He wandered out of his day house a few days ago now, and they're still looking for him. They have now released the full CCTV footage. So what I've done, I've got the original, and then I've also blown it up and done the tracking along it just to give people a clearer view of the footage. Yeah, it's Monday in Australia. Monday morning, super chilly Monday morning. I'm ready for winter to be over. So this is the footage that's been released. You can see him. He does a very, very autistic thing here, and he stops because there's a manhole in front of him. And then he stops further along. I don't know if it's a shadow from the car or what. And I've blown it up just so you can see more clearly. So he is actually wearing his noise cancelling headphones. It looked like he was going at a fair speed in the image, but now we can see that actually he was just kind of walking at a determined pace. And I've zoomed in a little bit more just so people can see. So hopefully they can find him. Hopefully he's okay. Poor little man. I posted this separately on YouTube, but YouTube have decided that it needs additional review. So, yeah. I know, I'd love it to be the middle of summer here. Yeah. He's removed his shirt. He's still got his noise cancelling headphones on. I just hope he's okay. They are still pumping out Disney music, which is really cute. I have got just a little bit, I'm a bit nervous. It's a 2-minute clip from one of the news stations. And I'm just going to trust that if they've put it out that there's not going to be copyright because they would have been careful.
It's not often you see police blasting songs from The Lion King or Frozen down a neighborhood street. Calgary police hoping the Disney music will help find 11-year-old Parker, missing since Thursday.
We continue to remain committed to finding Parker and bringing him home, and this investigation will continue until Parker is found.
Using this Northwest Calgary school as a command center, hundreds of city police, RCMP, and Calgary search and rescue personnel continue a citywide search for Parker, who is on the autism spectrum. In a statement released Saturday, his family said their hearts were broken by his disappearance. Parker experiences the world in his own way. He may not respond when his name is called, and he can become frightened when approached by people he does not know.
I couldn't imagine what the parents are feeling right now, so I just wanted to come out and do what we could.
I have a son of that age. I'm sorry, that's like a worst nightmare as a parent, so I want to do what I can.
Police welcoming the additional support, asking all Calgarians to check their own properties for any sign of a little boy. It's been less than a year since another young Alberta boy on the autism spectrum also went missing. 6-year-old Darius McDougall had been camping with his family in the Crow's Nest Pass when he disappeared. Almost 10 months later, he has still not been found. His disappearance was met with a massive ground search, but because the criteria for an Amber Alert was not met, the system was not deployed. Darius's family has been advocating for change.
We want to see that every child, no matter where the person they are, gets an Amber Alert. It doesn't matter what kind of child it is. It doesn't matter where they're at. They should have an Amber Alert to say that they're out there missing somewhere.
In Parker's case, the provincial government issued special permission for an Amber Alert on Saturday, 2 days after his disappearance, as the city searches for any sign of this vulnerable child, hoping to bring 11-year-old Parker home. Heather Yurex, West Global News, Calgary.
In terms of like his weight and things like that, when he looks like he's like very sensory reactive. So there's probably a lot of foods that he doesn't like because of the texture of the foods. So he's probably extremely picky about his foods and things. He also looks like that kind of gangly kind of boy that probably it's hard to get the weight on. Sorry, I'm yawning quite a lot this morning. It will kick in a minute. Yeah, I've seen this a lot with high needs children with autism. They can also have, for some reason, when it comes to autism and ADHD, somehow it can be linked with gut problems or with any sort of health issues. But a large thing is also the need for routine, the sensory issues. So there might be foods that just have a texture that they will not eat. So it does make it challenging. He's nonverbal. He's also not good around strangers. And I'm actually thinking that they should have like dedicated search periods. Maybe do half the day searching, get people out in the morning nice and early, and then set a time, say, right, after 1 p.m, we don't want anyone out searching. Because it's possible that with people wandering around, for me, looking at that news footage and seeing all those searches heading out, if I'm looking at that from the perspective of an 11-year-old boy with autism who doesn't like strangers, he's not coming out of that hidey hole that he's in. Not while there are lots and lots of people wandering the streets. So my thoughts are, as counterproductive as it sounds, I think that they should only do half-day searches and the rest of the day shut it down and say, right, nobody should be out searching after this time. Just looking. Yeah, it's quite common. I've seen a lot of young boys with ASD who really struggle up until sort of, 14, 15. And then it seems like the hormones kick in as well and they start to fill out. That's the big concern. If he won't answer back, he's not going to respond to strangers. Yeah, it was Thursday lunchtime that he wandered out. And then they've got the footage of him. His parents must be just in the worst place ever right now, just the stress, the anxiety, because it's the last thing. And especially, you know, with children who are ASD, children who are autistic, you go that extra mile to protect them. You know, they've got, they've got those needs. They've got so many important needs. Awesome. Thanks for coming in, Summer. Okay. Last week we were talking about Maddie's room that's not a room. So I put up some images for you. I'll pause it because that one's a good one. This is Maddie's bedroom. That's not a bedroom. Just a screen divider across the room in the living room. How did he go missing? Apparently he walked out of a day home. Which begs the question, if it's a day home, why is it not secure enough? How did he manage to walk out? Presumably being a day home, it is there for high needs children, meaning that number one priority should be to make sure that he's not walking out that door. Especially knowing that he's taken off before by the sounds of it. So that's my big concern. Yes, you can. It doesn't show it so well in these images, but all those cutouts on the screens, you can actually see through them. And of course, when you look at the height of those screens, they're not overly high. And when we look inside, it's a very teeny tiny space, cramped space. There isn't carpet, there's a rug, but not under her bed. The rug is further along. We'll get to that in a minute, I hope. Okay, so you can see in that shot, this is clearly taken, after forensics had been through. But you can see there is a rug that goes a little way, but not all the way. But here you can see where the screen is see-through. If you look at the screen on the right-hand side, that's Maddie's room. That's not a room. This is the living area, which is, I should have actually got a photo. It's open plan. So where you can see these chairs in the front, right next to them is the kitchen. Meaning that anytime someone came and went from the kitchen, anytime someone came and went from the living area, anytime someone came and went through the front door, they were basically going through Maddie's not bedroom. Maddie didn't like sleeping in there, so she did not ever sleep in there. And can you blame her? Yep. We have a young girl going into her teens, and that's the only option she's offered in terms of a bedroom when there's a guest bedroom upstairs not being used. Yeah, Jenn or Stefan should have been sleeping there, not Maddie. If Maddie felt safe in that downstairs room, well, Jenn should go and take the guest room. Or Jenn should take that bed and let Stefan have the guest room. But to have this little corner of the living room that's got a screen that you can see through. Well, it sounds like she very rarely had friends over. It sounds like her best friend was only there that one time. Or, you know, she was there, wasn't very often. She spoke about that time she was there and Stefan came through and made noodles and then went upstairs or something like that. No privacy. Nowhere where she could go and make private phone calls with friends or with Tyler. And you can bet that given Jen's personality, Jenn would not have encouraged Maddie to have any contact with Tyler. So for her, if trying to talk to her father on the phone meant that her mother was listening in and judging everything she said, but yeah. Yeah. It is. It's so sad. She just didn't get to be a kid. She didn't get to enjoy all those things of childhood. I mean, I think back to when I was Maddie's age, and my best friend lived over the other side of the city. So it was about a 40-minute drive away. So during the week, we didn't get to see a lot of each other. But on weekends and school holidays, we were at each other's houses. Like, our families just treated whichever one it was. Like, you know, if I was at her house, I was just part of the family. And if she was at my house, she was part of the family. And, you know, kids that age do that so much. You're just in and out of each other's houses because it's that magical time when you don't have all these commitments. So Maddie missed all that. Well, when I moved into this place here, the lady who was renting it before me popped in one day just to check if there was any mail that had came in. And she had moved here from interstate also, and she was telling me that in terms of bedrooms and stuff, this house has like 2 bedrooms and a sunroom, but the living room is kind of open. It's got one door that goes to the hallway, and then it's got like an open plan kind of archway that used to be one of those old-fashioned doors. And this woman was telling me that, you know, she moved because she wanted somewhere with more rooms because she had her 2 children had a room each, and she was sleeping in the living room. Because that's what parents do. So I think it's normal that parents do. Like, if you have a small house, you make sure your children have got somewhere to sleep. Yep. Oh, no, I didn't know that Juan wasn't charging her for rent. So she was the rent money that she was getting off Stefan and off the 2 flatmates was going into Jen's pocket. Is that for real? That's a lot of money. I can't remember how much it was, but that's disturbing. Yep. Maddie wasn't allowed to go to sleepovers with her friends because she worried about Maddie's best friend's father and brother. Like, she's such an evil, horrible woman. Maddie missed so many of those wonderful childhood experiences that are part of growing up. And that best friend's house that Maddie wasn't allowed to have a sleepover at, they'd been friends for several years. And ironically, the best friend's father put in a full day's work, came home, and went out searching for Maddie. Yep. And yet she comes up with that BS story of, oh, she couldn't have the guest room because my father wanted the rent. The woman makes me so angry. So, like I said, I want to focus on Jenn going forward. We don't need to hear more from that POS who's locked away. We know he lies. And even though he got away with pleading no contest, he's locked up for good, so that's a plus. Welcome in, Chrissy. But I just want to go through everything Jenn has said in her interviews and just really highlight the reason why Jenn should be locked up. So I've basically got all the interviews. If you followed Maddie's case, or if you followed me when I was covering Maddie's case, I have 2 Maddie playlists. I actually discovered I've got 3. I've got to move a lot of things from a playlist into the bigger playlist. If you come across a Maddie playlist that is a kind of short one, there's a longer one as well. I'm not sure how I screwed that up. But there's a regular Maddie playlist, which has got all my Maddie content, and then there's a Maddie case file playlist, which has got all the raw interviews and stuff like that. So that's where I'm pulling these interviews from. These were all things that were gotten via FOIA request because, unlike some places, Florida has sunshine laws, which mean that it's really, really easy to get things via FOIA request. So Paula Mooney, Plunder True Crime, put in a lot of hard work with this case, with the FOIA requests. The rest of us basically got it all for free because Paula would put in FOIA requests, she would get new stuff, she'd pay the costs, and then we would do the FOIA requests as well. And because it had already been processed, we wouldn't get charged. The reason I say that is because Paula still does that with so many cases. She spends an absolute fortune on FOIA requests. So I do support her on Patreon. She has a Patreon account. Her membership is I'm not sure. It's not one of the cheaper memberships. But if you're someone who for content creators who want to support someone who is doing something really good, then it's, worth it. I do it just because it's my way of paying my share for all the FOIA requests that I've had over the last couple of years that have come from Paula. But yeah, so she's someone to support, even if it's just going on her channel and watching her content, because she's definitely fighting the good fight. She's in it for the victims. She doesn't seem to flinch about the cost of FOIA reports. She just does that so she can get the information out for people. So just had to have a little bit of a rave about Paula because, as you know, she's probably one of my favourite content creators because she is so genuine, because she works so hard, and because she puts out such good content. I think at the moment she's covering the Nolan Wells case. She's also covering Mackenzie Sharilla. And I believe she's got some FOIA requests back for, sorry, when Amira is snoring like that, I get distracted. Oh, why is that not coming into my mind? Javea. She's got FOIA requests back for Javea. So I think she's put them out as well. Anyway, bingo. I think at the end of the day, people will turn around and say, oh, it's not trafficking because she wasn't getting paid for it. BS. What she was doing was still trafficking, in my opinion. But not only that, it is a clear breach of Florida child protection laws. It's aggravated child abuse because she actually sent her own daughter upstairs with that monster more than once. Anyway, let me pull up the video. Where's that hiding? I think I've queued this up. I kind of did it late-ish last night. I was working on other stuff. So I was sort of finishing off and went, oh, crap, I haven't got this video sorted. So let's see how I went with editing. Oh, whoops. That's not the right video. Oh, this is it. Here we go.
2024 11/16 hours for OCSO case 24-01.
So the first lot of interviews are audio only for those of you who aren't familiar with Maddie's case. I wanted to jump in first and do the video interview, but I would rather do it in order because that way we can actually hopefully pick up on stuff. Oh. Wow. So in an audio interview with Jenn, the detective asked what her night routine was. She said she takes her meds, eats, then goes to bed, and then in a much softer voice said, and I try not to think about it. Wow. I think not to think about it too much. Wow. There's a lot that I've forgotten, I think, in terms of things that Jenn said. And I think going back through these is going to be quite revealing. I think this is going to definitely show just how guilty Jenn is, in my opinion. I need to try and remember when we hit things, particular points in this, I need to remember things to go back to and get clips from, I think. Anyway, so this is the first interview. I believe this is Detective Hunt, but I think we're here anyway.
11313. Can you state your full name?
Jennifer Soto.
All right, Jennifer. So I'm here to talk to you today. We're going to talk about, and you're familiar with kind of why we're talking right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me when is the last time you were with Sam?
Saw her, I'm going to say Sunday night.
Okay.
I heard her Monday getting ready for school.
Okay. The first thing there that I hadn't picked up on before, he's asking her in terms of when was the last time that he was with Maddie or she was with Maddie. And she says, I'm going to say, and it bugs me when Jenn says this. And I pulled this up last time when I was covering this case. And to me, when someone says, I'm going to say, to me it sounds like, well, this is what I'm going to tell you, but it might not exactly be correct. But people have told me that that's just a turn of phrase in Florida. But honestly, even if it is a turn of phrase, when you look at the usage of it, it's not something that is used consistently by Jenn. So the fact that it's not used consistently, the fact that it only pops out here and there when she says things that to me are questionable, that says that it is that plausible deniability. I'm going to say this, but don't hold me to it. But the other thing, she says, well, I'm going to say I saw her Sunday night. And then, you know, the rest is BS, because she said, I heard her one day getting ready for school. First of all, she's struggling with in terms of not forming a full sentence, but also she's not adding a specific time to this. She doesn't say, and I heard her that morning, or I heard her Monday morning, or this was the day after, so she would have said, I heard her yesterday morning. But she's not giving. Are you sure? Because it sounded like she said one day.
So.
Saw her, I'm going to say Sunday night.
Okay.
I heard her Monday getting ready for school.
So you last saw her Sunday night about what time?
It makes sense that it's Monday. It still sounds to me like one day, but it makes sense that it's Monday, yeah. But again, the stumbling over it before she even gets it, you know, and heard her. I heard her Monday getting ready for school. If she was getting ready for school, you would have not just heard her, you would have seen her. So I need to point out for people who don't know this case, for Maddie to get ready for school, I did a video where I looked at the various images, and I don't know if I've got all the images saved anymore. Maddie's meds were in Jenn's bedroom. Everything Maddie needed to get ready for school was in Jenn's bathroom. So for Jenn to be like, well, I heard her getting ready, if she was awake enough to hear her, she should have seen her as well, because Maddie had to have gone into and through Jenn's room to get ready.
I would say 11 p.m. before she went to bed.
And you were here at home? Gotcha. And where did she go to bed? Was she in her room, your room, or something else?
She actually slept upstairs with... we have a guest bedroom. We were all going to sleep together in the same bed, but...
Honestly, how triggering is it to hear her saying we're all going to sleep together in the same bed and laugh about it? This is the first interview, and I wonder what was going through Detective Hunt's mind when he heard her say this. Yeah. She is a habitual liar. The woman makes me cringe. And you'll notice what you'll see as we go through the interviews, that in this interview she just is so confident about she actually slept upstairs with Stefan. We have a guest room and we were all going to sleep together. It just trips off her tongue because it is so commonplace for her that she seems to have forgotten that actually it's not acceptable to send your 13-year-old daughter upstairs to sleep with a 37-year-old man. Me too. It's sickening. It truly is sickening, just the way she's so nonchalant and just the way she laughs about, well, we were all going to sleep together. We should call her Snake from now on. Yeah. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think this was prior to them seeing the footage, CCTV footage. Also, in terms of interviews, with this morning interview, I believe they interviewed Jenn and then they interviewed Stefan. So at this point, they hadn't even seen what was on his phone. Welcome in, Creamy Road. Jenn should be investigated. She needs to be charged. She needs to face consequences. Because you cannot, any way you look at it, you cannot deny that she had a massive role in what happened to Maddie. You can't avoid that simple fact. Thanks, Grover. Because it's a while. I should actually go back and look through the timeline in the documents before we do another one of these. But from memory, I do think it was that day that they got hold of the footage from the dumpster. Time-wise, I do believe this was before Stefan's. I think Stefan's interview was directly after this one. So they had not found the footage on his phone yet. Dumpster footage and footage from the front gate are the two things I'd be curious to know in terms of the time. So if you've got the documents there, if you can find out also when the gate footage occurred. I think they got that a bit later, actually. Yeah, there's no good explanation for any of this. That's my biggest fear. She's only in her 30s. I really hope that she does not ever have another child. Because this woman should never have been allowed to breed in the first place. Okay.
I needed some good sleep. And I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So I asked, hey, can you guys go to the guest bedroom upstairs? I knew he was going to get her ready and...
Sorry. Okay, so,
Okay, so I'm going to play that whole bit in full in just a moment, because this is some serious over-explaining. The simple question was, when was the last time she saw Maddie? And she went to town. Absolutely went to town. Well, I'm really pissed that William J didn't either. When you watch that video, you can see their body language when they're listening to Jenn, and neither of them were very impressed with her. The guy that was in there with Will J was, I'm surprised he didn't break his pen. And Will J, when I was watching that the first time and watching the way his foot was flicking, to me, it reminded me of a rattlesnake, the way his foot was just getting more and more flat out. And yet, here we are, and still nothing. Welcome in, Women's Warrior. Yep. Look, I think, so long as we keep the pressure on of just reminding people what a POS Jenn Soto is, just maybe there won't be any guys out there stupid enough to even come close to procreating with that woman. Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind watching his foot and watching it get faster and faster. It was it was like a rattlesnake. Yeah. I feel so much for this particular group of officers and detectives. So this was Kissimmee first, wasn't it? Hang on. No, it was Frank Hunt and Moira Tagler. Which department was that? The first department that had this, and then it got transferred. I think it got transferred across to Kissimmee, didn't it? Because they thought she'd gone missing from school. This first bunch of detectives that dealt with this, I feel so sorry for them, because they did such an exceptional job, and it would be so heartbreaking to become emotionally invested in a case like this, and you can bet they did, to put in all the work and then to have Stearns get that ridiculous no contest plea and to get Jenn just free as a bird. You would feel like your work is just not appreciated. So just running back a little bit so you can hear the level of over-explaining that's happening.
I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So she actually slept upstairs with we have a guest bedroom. We were all going to sleep together in the same bed, but I needed some good sleep. And I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So I asked, hey, can you guys go to the guest bedroom upstairs? I knew he was going to get her ready and...
Sorry. Okay, so, you needed some good sleep. So...
Did she give any excuse for her willful ignorance? No. All the way through, she basically came up with excuses, justification. She never once says, oh, it was a bad thing allowing her to share a bed with Stefan or anything like that. So much deflection from Jenn, so much lying. Thank you, Anki. My brain was just not quite catching up with it. So the case started off in Orange County. And this is where you had some absolutely exceptional detectives. This particular detective, Frank Hunt, and also Moira Tagler, they were just brilliant. When they realised from the footage, the video footage, that it was basically, it had all happened at the townhouse, then it switched across to Osceola County. They still did a good job. I just do not think that they were on par with Orange County. But, you know, I have to admit I'm a huge Moira Tagler fan because I think she is legendary. He really didn't need to. He didn't need to get her ready in the morning. He didn't need to get her ready for bed. She was 13. What exactly is the... I knew he was going to get her ready. No, Jen's account in, I think it's the final interview when she's basically talking about how she gets up, she gets Maddie up, she makes breakfast for Maddie while Maddie gets herself organised. You don't hear Jenn saying anything there about her having to get Maddie ready. It's complete BS. And he needs to come because I need his help with Maddie and with the dog. Sailor was a teeny beady little dog that Maddie would have been more than capable of taking out for walks. Yeah, it does. It really does. If you didn't know Maddie's age, if I played you just that segment of that video, you would be thinking of a toddler. Get her ready, get her shoes on and tied up. Make sure that, you know, you pick out the right clothes for her. Brush her hair for her, whatever. I think in Jen's mind, the reason she infantilizes Maddie, I think there is two reasons. First of all, because if she can infantilize Maddie and in her mind have Maddie as like a 4-year-old, then Maddie's not competition for her. Maddie's not competition for her with Stearns or any other men that might come along. But I think too, by infantilizing her, it's her way of justifying allowing Stearns to share a bed with her. It's her way of justifying having Maddie sleeping in the bed between her and Stearns. Because if she can think of Maddie as a little 4-year-old, if she can speak about her like she's a 4-year-old, then in her mind, there's nothing quite so sinister in terms of Maddie sleeping in the bed between her and Stefan. Personally, it's 100 times worse if you ask me. I don't know. It's just as bad, perhaps. But it's definitely her not wanting to acknowledge that Maddie was becoming a teenager, that Maddie was turning into a young woman. Because then she is going down the road of admitting that she was putting a young woman in a bad situation with a 37-year-old man. Okay, was this... No, Acosta and Tagler did the next interview with Jenn, didn't they? I think this was Detective Hunt, and the second interview with Jenn on this day was Tagler and Acosta. So they went to the security office and viewed the footage at 8 p.m. Sorry. Gotcha. Right, so this is before they'd seen any of the footage. So the interview that comes after this one, the evening interview with Tagler and Acosta, is after they've got the footage from the security office. Thanks for that. It doesn't appear that they did. This has been one of my rants from day one, is that everybody who witnessed something that wasn't right in Maddie's world basically excused it either by, oh, well, it's not my business, or, well, I didn't think it was much, as in I didn't think it was enough that anyone would do anything about it. So even though many people saw things that were red flags, not a single person reported it. It's that idea of, well, this bit of information they won't go far with. But I've said this over and over. The problem with that is that you build a case. You might get a report in to CPS that is nothing more than, okay, this child, we're concerned because she's constantly falling asleep at school and we think there's an issue at home. They're going to make a record of it. They might make a home visit depending on the level of concern. But it's not going to go further than that, but it will be on record. So when the next person makes a report saying, well, my son was visiting with his girlfriend and her daughter, and she was laughing about falling asleep with, what was it, with her putting her leg over him or something. There was some weird ass thing that was said to Deb Stearns that was like a huge red flag, and she didn't follow up. That's also possible. It started when Maddie was 7 or 8. Given that Jenn does seem to be struggling with mental health and with issues with substances, it is possible that she's just not noticed that her daughter was turning into a young woman. That is the thing. That is the mindset that needs to change. If it's a real problem, someone else will report it. It's not a big enough problem for me to report it because they won't do anything. That's the mindset that needs to change for all these kids. No, Deb never would have reported anything, which is sad. That's the thing. Especially when that man wasn't even her father. And the biggest one that gets me is the girlfriend that he had after him and Jenn broke up. And he's telling this girlfriend that he can't stay overnight because he has to get back to the apartment because Maddie can't sleep unless he's there with her. And then he also tells this girlfriend that when he has a shower at Jenn's place, he comes out of the shower buck naked into Jenn's room where Jenn and Maddie both are. And this woman did not report it. And she got snarky over content creators actually playing the audio of her interview on their YouTube channels. I think Eric from the docket, I think she actually put in a privacy claim against him simply for playing her interview on his channel. Yeah. It's that whole thing of someone else will report it. Anything, even the smallest thing. Even if it's something that they don't feel the need to do a follow-up visit, it will be on record. No, not her father. He was Jenn's boyfriend. Maddie's father, Tyler, was not on the scene at all. So essentially, Jenn was pimping out her daughter. That's the thing. Maddie was having all these panic attacks at school. But she never told anyone anything.
So was it about 11 o'clock?
Yeah. I sent them upstairs and I went to bed.
Okay. And that was about 11?
Yeah.
And do you guys normally all sleep together? Because I know you said that she sleeps in your room with you typically, right?
She sleeps with me typically. Typically when he comes into town, because he lives with his parents in Northport, Florida. Mm-hmm. When he comes to town, he'll sleep in the guest bedroom.
Okay.
Again, lots of over-explaining. Now, I'm guessing that something in his body language cued Jenn up to the fact that actually what she was saying probably wasn't so good. Because you'll notice that she's kind of backing off a bit with the confidence here. But she jumps into a narrative. This is what she has in her mind come up with as her narrative. She's like, it was about 11, I sent them upstairs and I went to bed, okay, and that was about, and then he's like, and that was about 11. But you've got the and, it's very, very much your narrative thing, which takes me back to something that I've said so many times with Jenn. I question if Jenn ever saw Maddie on that night, on that Sunday night. Jenn's got, I think, 5 different stories for when she got home. When it comes to what happened with Maddie that night. So the fact that we have this very wooden thing of, yeah, it was about 11, I sent them upstairs, I went to bed, definitely feels like a constructed narrative. Welcome in, MK Ultra. It's been a long time. Yeah. she was struggling. She was struggling so much when you hear from her friends and her teachers. She claims she didn't. But in one interview, she said to the detectives, I used to joke with Stefan that this would become a Woody Allen situation and that Maddie would end up with him instead of her, basically. Damn good question. And this is not something I thought to bring up for anyone who's not familiar with the case. The Saturday before Stearns went to Jenn's place, he was having some sort of meltdown. He asked his father or his mother or one of his parents, and feel free to correct me because it's a while since I've looked at the documents and things. He asked one of his parents if they had meds because he was anxious. So he needed meds for his anxiety. And they didn't. And then he was like, well, it's okay, I found something, because he was having some sort of utter meltdown. Jenn claims she forgot to take her meds the night before. There was something triggering. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Chris said he'd never seen Stefan like this before. Something sent Stefan off the show on the Saturday before he went to Jenn's. We will probably never know. And I know a lot of people crap on me for this, because I know there's people who don't like to think about it. But there was a post on Reddit. Stefan lurked on Reddit, and he followed a lot of different groups. And there was a post on there where a teenager had said that they were afraid because they thought they might have been pregnant. That account was deleted and removed, but Stearns had responded to that account. And I honestly can't help wondering if the account that was removed could have actually been Maddie. There was a thing that Maddie sent him from Amazon that was this parenting coin. And it said something like, we should do this or something like that. Yeah, in a jail call, they asked him about it and he claimed it was just money worries. It really sounds like it was far more than money worries. That's the thing. I think a poor child, not only was she going through all this, but they had her so heavily rugged. She told a friend at school that her friend used to be in sync with her when they used to get their cycle. And Maddie was panicking with this friend because she didn't get her period. When you listen to one of the interviews with Jenn and they ask her about it, Jenn's basically saying, when asked about the last time Maddie had her period, it does sound like she missed it. Like the last one she'd had was early January, and she should have been due for another one early February. and it sounds like it wasn't anything that was made note of. It didn't happen. Yes, Karen, they had her on a lot of things. It's just my heart breaks for little Maddie. Yeah. When you look at things like that, the coin thing, it does make it sound like in her mind she thought they were in a relationship. I mean, how do you expect a 13-year-old who's had this stuff happening since she was 7 or 8 to really understand it? To really understand what the relationship really meant? Yeah, Jenn kept track. Jenn kept track of Maddie's periods. Yeah. The detectives asked Jenn about pregnancy tests under the sink. And there was a lot of deflection over that too. When you look at emotional development at 12, 13 years of age, the confusion over what was happening with him over that 4 or 5 year period. Something that I think a lot of people have overlooked too is that they were in school in their science lesson, I believe. They were doing that sort of sex education kind of thing. Now, I don't know if there is a particular curriculum in terms of sex ed in Florida, but I would imagine that when you're talking to 12 and 13-year-olds, one of the first things you would be addressing is essentially appropriate behaviours from adults. So it is quite possible that Maddie was suddenly getting educated at school about her own situation. And that maybe she stood up to Stearns that night. The thing is, when it comes to Stearns, Chris said that he found a USB after Stearns was arrested, which had, I think, somewhere around 10,000 images on it. And those images weren't Maddie. It is my understanding that those groups that share those images, you don't just go online and buy them. You have to trade. Yeah, get over it, Amira. Sorry, they heard a car door outside. So there is a very, very real possibility that he was trading some of his own images and videos. And that there are images and videos out there on the dark web. And that's what makes it even more painful. Mm. Yeah. Well, yes and no. He got caught as a teenager perving on his friend's mother through their bathroom window. He got involved in an altercation as a teenager where he stabbed a guy, and that was kind of put under wraps. He also, at one point in time, was living in a share house that was owned by his parents, and two of his friends were sharing with him. And he had set up a hidden camera and had filmed his friend's girlfriend. That situation, that person moved out and claims that they were given a bit of money from Deb Stearns to stay quiet. So yes, he did have a history. Classic situation of escalating peeping Tom kind of behaviour. I wonder too if that was a bit of deflection, her trying to act like she knew nothing. Because if she was involved, then she's going to try and throw him under the bus with that. The photos of Maddie from the last 12 months of her life, they really tell a story. They really do. I truly feel when I look at all the images that we've got of Maddie that you can almost pinpoint when it started. I still haven't, in my mind, I still haven't cleared Chris Stearns. I'll be quite frank. There were a lot of red flags for me when it came to Chris Stearns. Now, the thing that he gave over with the 10,000 images, obviously completely inadmissible in court regardless, because there was no proof that it came from Stefan's bedroom, because obviously it was handed over by Chris Stearns. It could have come from anywhere, so there was no evidence, proper evidence collection or anything like that. There were red flags, definitely. 25 milligrams of hydroxyzine is a lot. I mean, I've been having issues. I get triggered by some foods, some additives and things like that. And I've been having a lot of issues over the last couple of weeks with my skin. And last night I caved and took an antihistamine before I went to bed. And that knocked me for a 6. Crawling out of bed this morning to do the live stream, and I'm sitting there thinking, do I cancel the live stream because I feel like a bus has hit me? And that's just one regular antihistamine tablet for an adult. And yet they were giving her 25 milligrams of hydroxyzine. Like, no wonder she was so out of it, the poor thing. Oh, yeah. And Stearns knew that she had a crush on this boy at school. That would have made him feel threatened. So many things that could have been like trigger points with what happened. I keep forgetting that. He was logged on to Telegram the night that it happened. Yeah. Given that it would have been either Jenn or Stefan taking the photo, she probably did really hate them. As far as we know, he hasn't had access to other children. Maddie was about 7 or 8 when it started. He moved in with Jenn, I believe, in 2019, from memory. We've not heard of anyone else come forward and say that they'd been in a relationship with him and they had children. No, he didn't. They went for a plea deal. He didn't even plead guilty. He pled no contest, which is saying, I'm not going to admit guilt, which is saying, yeah, you got a court case against me and you might be able to prove it, but I'm not going to give you an admission of guilt. I'm just going to say no contest. I'm not going to contest these claims. No, they've not charged Jenn yet. Told his mother in a court call that he went for a walk and he came back and he found her and she was cold. When you look at how horrendous this case is with regards to Stearns, the fact that Jenn is not locked up is just, it makes me so angry. Anyway, a little bit more of the audio because I'm getting so sidetracked, but I do want to cover a lot of this stuff for people who don't know this case, because I want as many people to know Maddie's story as possible. So, for a lot of us who've been here, covered it every day, dug into every corner of this case, these sort of discussions are great, and this is kind of what I'm aiming for with talking about it on Mondays. It doesn't matter if it takes forever to get through these interviews, because it's about the discussion. I think for all of us, it's that need to come back to the case and discuss the things that seem to be overlooked, the things that are red flags for us. It's about saving money, about saving court time. Honestly, there should be restrictions on the sort of plea deals that can happen with these sort of losers.
And Stefan is the one you're referring to, right?
Yeah, Stefan Stearns.
Stefan. How often does he stay here?
Oh, he moved away back in December, so I'm going to say he's visited at least 2 to 3 times since then.
He moved away back in December. Bear in mind that this is just towards the end of February. And she's saying he's visited 2 to 3 times since then. Clearly, he was getting plenty of access to Maddie. Yep. Oh, she lies so much. And when you get this, you get the Soto sigh so often, which is always, yeah, that's Amira snoring in the background. Before I started the live stream, I went through and removed Mouse's toys from all the beds because he likes to reserve all the beds. They've got, this is going to make me sound crazy, but there is a bed under my desk. There's 2 beds under my desk for them. They're heated beds, so they've got the heat going into them to keep them warm. Then they've got 4 nest beds that run along my craft trolley, which is behind me. Mouse, through the day, will go through and reserve every one of those beds by putting one of his toys into them. So I have to go through every morning and remove his toys so there's a room, because Taka likes to lie across the top of those beds and Mira likes to snuggle up in those beds. But Mouse thinks they're all his. So yes, that is a mirror. I removed Mouse's toy and she's in her favourite bed. So, but Jen's lies, you get a lot of vagueness from Jenn. You get the Soto sigh. You're going to get a lot of the Soto sigh. Someone actually said in one of my videos a few months ago that the Soto sigh has become something that is quite commonly used now in terminology. And I'm like, whoops. But to me it is. It's the Soto sigh. But she gives a lot of vagueness. She never gives a direct answer. She's not saying, well, he came up this date, he came up kind of, middle January, and then he came up again at the start of February. So he's been up twice. No, it's just a very vague, 2-3 times, but she doesn't really know. It does, but I can't help thinking that the plan was for him to be there for Jen's birthday. Jen's birthday was the 3rd of March, I believe, from memory. It was the 2nd or 3rd of March. And in the final interview with Jenn, when they're getting her details, they ask her birth date. And this is the one time we see Jenn get emotional. Because it was her worst birthday ever. Well, suck on it, Jenn. And I hope that every birthday since then and every birthday going forward is a reminder. Because I agree, Grover. Jenn knew that area intimately. When you look at the map where Maddie was found, that whole area was surrounded by lakes. And I truly believe that was the goal. Oh, that's right, because it was her phone. Yeah, that's right. What's your phone passcode? She gives her birthday and then she bursts into tears. Worst birthday ever. Yeah, they both had a Suki Lala about their birthdays. Like, I'm sorry. What about Maddie's birthday? Because that Sunday was meant to be her celebration for her 13th birthday. Yes, she turned 13 on the 22nd, but that was her special birthday party with family and friends. And thanks to Jenn and Stefan, that special day was completely ruined. And how is that? She's giving a description, repeatedly giving the description of what Maddie's wearing and saying she's wearing white Crocs. And yet we had one white Croc in the dumpster and one white Croc in Jenn's bedroom. Her daughter's missing and she doesn't notice. Now, sure, Jenn had a pair of white Crocs as well. But if you've just given a description to detectives, this is what my daughter's wearing, and she's wearing white Crocs, and you go into your bedroom and you suddenly spot your white Crocs there, you would almost certainly have a moment where you think, oh, hang on, is that her Crocs? And you'd go over and check. And when you go over and check, you'd see, hang on, there's 3 Crocs here. But she never checked. She never noticed. And yet somehow she noticed Maddie's phone that was apparently, allegedly left in Maddie's not bedroom. She would have had to have physically gone into that not bedroom to see Maddie's phone on the dresser. But based on the movements of Maddie's phone, when she went in and saw Maddie's phone on that dresser, she didn't pick it up and say to herself, I'll put it on the table by the door so I can remember to take it with me when I pick Maddie up for school. No, she saw Maddie's phone on that dresser when she was straightening up things. But she didn't move it. We know that because Maddie's phone was taken upstairs the night before. This is all the movements that have been tracked on her phone. It was turned off just before the alarm went off the following morning. And then it was taken back downstairs. I think it was turned back on. And it was placed in that spot on the dresser in Maddie's not room. It didn't move again until around 2:30 in the afternoon, which was when Jenn picked it up and took it with her to collect Maddie. Oh, I bet 100%. I bet 100%. Jenn was home from about 11:30ish, I think, to about 2:30. That sounds close. It was either 11 or 11:30 she got back from her blood appointment. And she claims she sat around and waited till she could go and pick up Maddie leave at 2:30. So she could be at the front of the pickup line. Oh yeah, the trauma of having to cancel her Botox appointment because she didn't want to spend the money. Yeah, because she clearly couldn't find Maddie's birthday money, or Maddie didn't get enough birthday money.
Okay. Why did he move away?
He was offered his dad had offered him a job, but it fell through.
Oh.
So now we're trying to get him back here.
And he just visits?
Yeah.
When he visits, does he stay for like hours, days, weeks?
I would say days. This time we had planned on him staying a whole week because I was going through training at work.
Okay, first of all, I'll work backwards. I wonder if she was actually going to say this time we were planning on him staying a whole week because of my birthday. Because you get that. This time we planned on him staying a whole week because my training. So I think the excuse of him coming because she had work and she was training, I think the truth of the matter here is that the plan was he was coming for Jenn's birthday. She was planning a nice gathering for her birthday with her and Stefan and allowing her to be centre of attention. Multiple stories. Not just what she told Detective O'Malley in terms of she threw him out because, the house was a pigsty. Here she's saying he moved out because he thought he had a job. Well, the version we get from Chris is Chris moved him out because he was sick of paying rent for him when he was in a dead-end job. So Chris was like, I would rather have him move down here and maybe he can get a job down here that's going to go somewhere, as opposed to working at that particular theme park where there was no prospect of promotion or anything like that. So multiple stories. And I think it makes sense to me that probably the main reason he moved out was because his dad said, I'm not paying for it anymore. Because to Jenn and Stefan, that certainly seems to be the main thing, where the money's coming from. So lots of lies going on. The practice with Maddie's school was to send out a notification in the evening. So I believe the notification went out shortly before 5 o'clock. The whole school district has now changed it because of Maddie. So because of Maddie, they now send out notifications in that morning block if a child is absent, which is such a good thing. It's should have happened from day one.
So I wanted him to be here to help me with the dog, help me with the training.
Okay, so this time he was planning to stay for a week. How long has he been here? Or when did he arrive, rather, this time?
I can't remember if he arrived Saturday or Sunday morning.
How does she have problems with that? This has been something that has ticked me off from the moment I first heard it. This interview was the morning of the 27th of February. This was the day after they reported Maddie missing. Meaning that it's not like they were interviewing her a month later. And it shouldn't be hard to remember that he turned up Sunday night. Because how could you not? Sunday night, and I've said this about Jenn so many times, Sunday night should be etched into her brain. Because if, as she claims, she did actually see Maddie Sunday night, this is the last time she saw her daughter. So there should be no vagueness as to when Stefan arrived. And yet you get this line, and she doesn't know. Maybe it was Saturday, maybe it was Sunday, who knows? I suspect the avoidance there is because she doesn't want to admit that he arrived on Sunday night when she wasn't even home. She's thinking on the spot here in terms of what is going to be least incriminating for her. So it seems like she's gone, right, if I say that he arrived on the Sunday night, then they're going to have some major questions about the fact that he arrived and then all this happened. She wants to separate herself from all of this, but she's also trying to protect Stefan. She knows he wasn't there on Saturday. She's talking about forgetting her meds the night before. Well, she would have been aware of her routine the night before and known that he wasn't there. And not only that, but I believe Maddie was at Yolanda's on Saturday night. There should be no question in her mind. There's no reason other than trying to solidify her narrative, trying to decide on what answer is going to be best for her and Stefan, not what answer is truthful.
Okay, that's fine. Sometime this weekend?
Yeah.
So that was last night around 11. And so about what time did you hear her on Monday morning?
I heard everyone getting ready around, I'm going to say 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Note the wording here. He wants to know what time she heard Maddie the following morning. She doesn't say, I heard her. She says, I heard everyone getting ready. It's that avoidance thing. Basically, she's giving the impression that she's saying here that she heard her. And she actually does admit in later interviews that she didn't hear her. So she's actually being avoidant here. She knows she didn't hear Maddie, but she's trying to give the impression that she did. She's trying to stick with the agreed narrative or her version of the narrative. Because at this point in time, they haven't told her there's any camera footage or anything. So at this point in time, as far as Jenn knows, they're still investigating it that Maddie disappeared on the way to school. So basically saying she heard them getting ready is because she is avoiding saying that she didn't hear Maddie at all that morning. Again, big lies, constructed narrative.
And was it just Steph? Who else lives here?
I have roommates.
Okay.
I have Angelica Negro, who's one roommate, and then Natalie Rosero.
Okay. And you just heard all of them, or did you hear anyone specific?
No, I just heard, if anything, Stefan came and woke me up accidentally because he was...
I will continue with that in a moment, but note, he's trying to narrow down the details. He's trying to get into the specifics here. Because her wording was, I heard everyone getting ready, which leads to the question of essentially who's everyone. And he asks about the flatmates. So having established those flatmates in the house, now he wants to know if she knows exactly who she heard. So his question was, you just heard all of them, or did you hear anyone specific? She avoids the question and goes straight on to, I just heard, because she's trying to find an answer. So she deflects and goes to, oh, if anything, Stefan came and woke me up. So having just said she heard Maddie that morning getting ready, but she didn't even really say it was Maddie getting ready. She claims she heard Maddie, but when asked to go more into that, she heard everyone getting ready in the kitchen, avoiding the lie, basically. And then when he tries to home in on that a little bit more and find out if that was Maddie that she heard, straight deflection. If anything, well, Stefan woke me up. Yeah, well. And not getting charged for it. I'll tell you what, that is one handwriting analysis I need to do. I need to pull up Jenn's handwriting analysis from my Google Drive. I mean, I need to pull up Jenn's statement and do a handwriting analysis on it. Because I think that would be damn interesting. Major avoidance here. Yeah, it was a sheriff who put a photo on his Instagram inadvertently. There are so many things that Jenn could have been charged for.
Trying to let the dog out.
Hang on.
I'm going to say 7:30, 8 o'clock.
And was it just Steph? Who else lives here?
I have roommates.
Okay.
I have Angelica Negro. There's one roommate, and then Natalie Rosiero.
Okay. And you just heard all of them, or did you hear anyone in specific?
No, I just heard, if anything, Stefan came and woke me up accidentally because he was trying to let the dog out. Mm-hmm. And the dog gets really nervous sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to help him with that, get him on his leash. But he got him situated and took him for a walk.
Okay. Did you hear around 7 or 8?
I heard noises in the kitchen, but I'm not sure,
Not sure who it was exactly.
Who it was exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
It could have been any of the roommates.
But you didn't see her leave Monday morning. Were you still in bed or still in your room?
I was still asleep, yeah.
Gotcha.
No, because he didn't walk the dog, did he? There were no neighbours that saw it. No camera footage. The neighbours that were spoken to said they'd never seen him walking the dog. It's another one of her lies, essentially. And you get the Soto sign in the middle of it. You get a lot of arms. This is something she was fabricating on the spot. She's not telling it like someone who is retelling something they experienced. She's pausing, throwing in ums, throwing in the Soto sighs. She's constructing this narrative as she goes. Yep. Sailor slept either on or next to the couch. He did not sleep in Jenn's room. The cat came and went from Jenn's room, but it was not normal for Sailor to sleep in Jenn's room. But apparently, Stearns had to come and get Sailor off Jenn's bed to take him for a walk. It's an outright lie. When you listen to everything that Jenn says, when you listen to the way she's telling it, it's just one fabrication after the next.
What time does she normally leave for school?
We usually leave around 8:50 at the latest.
Okay. What time does she have to be to school by?
9:28 is when school starts.
Gotcha. And so I think you had said the previous night, you and Stefan had agreed that he was going to get and take her in the morning? Okay.
And they were going to stop at McDonald's and get breakfast, but she changed her mind last minute and did not want McDonald's.
That does my head in every time. Yeah, the dog didn't wake her up. I doubt the dog was even in her room. My belief, if the dog was in any way caught by Stefan, put on a lead by Stefan, given that we see all these beautiful photos of Maddie snuggling with pets, snuggling with Sailor, my belief is that Stefan put Sailor on a lead and took him into Jenn's room to be controlled, to be contained, while he removed Maddie from the house. Because I think, you know what dogs are like. Dogs are so intuitive. Dogs are so loyal to their owners. So I believe that if anything was happening there with Sailor, that basically he was put in Jenn's room to keep him out of the way while Stefan removed Maddie. I don't think he would have asked her about the other croc, because otherwise she would have probably searched for it maybe. It certainly seems possible that that's what he was doing, going into her room looking for the other croc. But I think because she introduces this whole Sailor situation, I'm wondering if maybe there was a bit of noise with Sailor or something, and they're worried that the upstairs flatmates might have heard it. So I truly think that this story about him getting Sailor to take him for a walk is more to do with him getting Sailor out of the living area, making sure he was secure so that he could take Maddie out to the vehicle without Sailor getting in the way. But yeah, It didn't happen the way she's saying it. Now, this Macca's story, honestly, this is one of the things that makes me think that Jenn is definitely complicit. Yeah, why didn't he mention it? Because I guess for him, talking about Sailor is almost an admission, because in his brain, even if he's running with Jenn's narrative, because it sounds like she was definitely making up that narrative on the spot. What you've got to recognise here is that straight after Jenn did this interview with Detective Hunt, he then turned around and did an interview with Stefan straight after. So there was no communication time for them at this particular point in time. But I think Stefan avoiding mentioning anything to do with the dog is more to do with, because it was part of what he did. If he had gotten Sailor and taken Sailor into Jenn to get him out of the way so he could get Maddie out of the house, coming up with a story about taking Sailor for a walk wouldn't fit anywhere in his timeline anymore. Because the timeline he gave them directly after this interview with Jenn, before he was able to communicate with her about the dog or anything, the timeline he gave them was essentially he got up, they made good time, they left at 7:30. But let's go back to Macca's. I don't think there is a 13-year-old in existence that would say no to stopping for Macca's on the way to school. Not only that, but wouldn't you be like, well, okay, let's get you something you can take it with you? But no, Maddie didn't want it. Exactly. It's not like Maddie had had breakfast or anything, according to them. Whereas when Jenn was asked, does Maddie usually have breakfast? She said, yes, she does. She claimed that she would get up and she would make breakfast for Maddie while Maddie had a bit of a snooze. Maddie would get ready, Jenn would make breakfast while Maddie had a snooze, and then Maddie would have her breakfast and then they'd head to work. But apparently this morning, Maddie just wanted to sleep. Had no interest in Macca's. And Stearns even doubled back to see if she wanted Macca's, and she still didn't want it. Jenn's telling this part of the narrative like it's just normal. Like you wouldn't question that your child didn't want something that was a treat. Oh, yeah, we call it Macca's here. It's so like ingrained in us that you'd rarely hear an Australian call it McDonald's. Oh, you have a mini croc from a McDonald's Happy Meal on your purse and a green ribbon from the memorial. That's so lovely. I need to put I do a lot of work with polymer clay, and one of the things I do is butterflies, and I haven't figured out the right spot to hang them. But with cases that I've worked on for like a significant period of time, or ones like Phoebe Bishop that just really, really, connected with me really deep, I've made a butterfly for each of them. and I do have a green butterfly for Maddie. But after putting my new desk in and organising everything, I need to actually get myself organised and put my butterflies somewhere, just maybe have them hanging in the window or something. Because, you know, just a reminder. I mean, I have, because I do come back to these cases occasionally and do little things, I still have their photos on my MacBook and stuff. And so often when I come and I start up my MacBook, there'll either be a photo of Kylie Rodney or a photo of Maddie that comes up, or a photo of Lily and Jack. But I do need to put my butterflies somewhere. Oh yeah, the officer probably was reading between the lines with Jenn. Detective Hunt, Detective Acosta, Moira Tagler, absolutely exceptional. Listening to the way Detective Hunt is picking up on everything here, every nuance, and adapting his interviewing straight up and questioning on what she has said. And Moira Tagler was the same. Just the picking up on so much of the little minuscule things that some people might miss. They were absolutely fantastic detectives. And I was so angry when the defence brought that motion about Stefan's phone. And I know there was, you know, one content creator who kept going on and on about how Detective Tagler made a mistake and she should have been fired for it or something like that. And I was just the opposite. I was like, no, she nailed it. Detective Tagler did not do anything wrong. It was just a defense strategy. And had she not, at that time, taken his phone, that would have been doing something wrong.
Okay, when'd you find that out?
When did I find that out? When Stefan called me around 10:18 in the morning, I had stepped out to go get blood work done. And he had just let me know that he just got back home from running a few errands. And that I asked, did you guys ever just stop at McDonald's? And he said, no, she changed her mind. He tried convincing her a few times, but she did not want McDonald's anymore.
That there, again, that's another thing that makes me believe that she's complicit. So apparently she's waiting in the car park because she's got this blood draw happening. And Stefan rings her. And the question isn't, did Maddie get to school okay? Did Maddie enjoy her breakfast? The question is, did she ever get it? So my question to everyone here who's got children, who's got grandchildren, nieces, nephews, if someone was taking your child, dropping them off at school, and they had said to you beforehand that they were going to stop and get the Maccas on the way, would it ever actually occur to you to ask if that ended up happening? Because to me, it's the wrong question. If you had decided the night before that they were going to stop on the way and grab Maccas, you would never expect a 13-year-old to say, I don't want it. So the question wouldn't be, did you ever get it? The question would be, did she get to school okay, or did she enjoy her breakfast, or what did she get? Yeah. He had an interesting perspective with the detectives. Quite negative towards the detectives, whereas everything I saw in terms of law was well within the law. And at the end of the day, when Detective Tagler took Stefan's phone, at that point in time, they did not know Maddie was deceased. At that point in time, they were still investigating a missing child who had been reported missing, more than 36 hours earlier. Basically, there's no way around it. She was well within the law to get his phone. I don't understand why that content creator was so adamant. Exactly. You wouldn't be like, oh, well, did it ever happen? You'd be asked, well, what did she get? You know, or be like, well, did she get the usual? Or did she go for something more adventurous? Yep. There is so much here with Jenn in terms of patterns. She does the classic speeding up when it's something that she shouldn't be admitting to. She does the avoidance where she will not name a person specifically if it's something that they never did or never happened. So I heard them all getting ready in the kitchen. She's got the Soto sigh, which is always a red flag. As soon as you hear that Soto sigh, that's her brain going, there's a truth here that I can't tell, and I need to work on something new. And then you get all the pauses, the ums. And like I said, when she says, I want to say, it might be a thing for people in the area that they do preface things they say by, I want to say. But to me, it's still showing uncertainty. I want to say this, but I'm not sure if it's quite right. If there was, we've never been told. I think from memory that I went through and I looked at images of the parking lot and that there are cameras. But I think in terms of the FOIA requests, if there were working cameras, then we've been not told. And because it didn't go to trial, a lot of this stuff we'll just never find out. For anyone who's not familiar with this case, this is the reason why, one of the many reasons why so many of us were so angry when he was allowed to plead no contest. Stefan's movements before he finally left Maddie under that strand of bamboo in St. Cloud. He took Maddie out of the townhouse around 7:30. The timing's important because he basically took her out just before Jenn's flatmate would have come down and started getting organised for work. So he took Maddie out to the vehicle really early, way ahead of what would be the normal time to leave. And he strapped her into the passenger seat. And he drove in the direction of Maddie's school. He went into the Macca's parking lot. He turned around at some point in time and he drove back to the townhouse. And he went through the security gate at the front of the whole area, all the apartments. And he had to ask the security guy to get him in because his clicker wouldn't work. Now, I think it was probably a panic kind of reaction, and it wasn't working because he was in some sort of panic state. So with Maddie still sitting deceased on the passenger seat, the security guard had to click him in with Stearns's clicker. So he actually saw Maddie there, but he thought she was asleep because of the way she was lying. Stefan then went back to the apartment for something, possibly looking for Maddie's other crock. And then he left by the back gate, still with Maddie strapped in, deceased Maddie strapped into the passenger seat. He then drove around for another hour or so. Kind of did a guided tour of the area before he finally drove into a car park. He backed up to a wall in a corner area of a car park, clearly trying to avoid cameras. And this was I think around 9:30ish, I can't remember. He backed up in a corner of a car park, took Maddie from the passenger seat and placed her in the trunk of the vehicle. He then returned to the townhouse and just went on with his day like it was a normal day until 12:50. Oh, that's right. He also went out and got some vape and stuff after sometime in between that. I have to check the time. So he left Maddie's body in the trunk of his father's car all day. At 12:50, he finally left the townhouse with Maddie still in the trunk of the car. And then he headed out to the St. Cloud area. She'd been in that car for hours and hours. And he was just so casual about it. And then he gets a flat tyre. And of course, the spare tyre's in the trunk of the car. So that's when he takes her and places her under that strand of bamboos. That wasn't his intended location. That's where he ended up because Karma stepped in and went, "Hang on, bucko, you're not getting away with this." The horror for me, the biggest horror for me with this case is that he drove around with her in the passenger seat for something like 2 hours. And then put her in the trunk of his vehicle and went back to the apartments like nothing was happening. We never got an explanation for why Jenn's clicker was in Chris Stearns' car. It is. And there's so much camera footage of him driving all around. I mean, he went out to, what was it, SeaWorld? Way out of his way, driving around. Yeah. When he put her in where the bamboo was, face down. It's bad enough the way that he treated Maddie in life. But for him to be the person who took her life and then drive around for 2 hours with her in the passenger seat, deceased. What sort of evil person does that? It's just incomprehensible for me. And then to put her in the trunk of the car and then just go home like nothing's happened. It's incomprehensible. It truly is. How far did we go? He did. He just went on with his day. Rings Jenn at 10:20. They claim that he rang Jenn to say that Maddie didn't want Macca's. So the condo complex security footage. Tagler requested it at 1:45 p.m. Was told the video takes 6 hours to download and process, hence the delay until 8 p.m. So they were so onto him from the get-go. I don't think there's been enough acknowledgement of how far this case progressed thanks to Hunt, Acosta and Tagler. Their work on the 27th. The only criticism I have with this case is the townhouse was not locked down on the evening of the 26th. They reported her missing and they were able to go back to the townhouse. And you had an officer go to the townhouse at midnight. So like 26th, 27th at midnight, you had an officer there looking at Maddie's phone. But Maddie's phone wasn't collected until the second interview. Not this interview, but the second interview. No, it was this interview, sorry. Because it was Detective Hunt who took Maddie's phone. So Maddie's phone was only collected in this interview. So after reporting her missing the evening before, they only thought to take her phone on around lunchtime the following day. Now, I can't blame Tagler or Hunt or anyone or Acosta for that. This is the first formal interview with Jenn. This is the first time the detectives have been really involved. Until then, it's been just police doing the usual, getting statements. So I don't fault Detective Hunt or Tagler or Acosta. And the fact that Detective Hunt did get Maddie's phone in this interview tells you that he was on it straight away. But protocol-wise, I think it should be standard protocol that if a child is reported missing, straight away their phone should be handed over if the phone is there. Oh, wasn't she ever? They all were. That's for sure. You know, your daughter's missing. You report her missing, and what do? You go home and you get high. They are just despicable people, honestly. Yep. The 3 detectives that were dealing with this case on the 27th, the 3 main detectives that had it, they had it in the bag. Completely. You know, especially the moment that Detective Tagler took Stefan's phone, the deal was sealed. And then you get Thomas Karras spotting Stearns with the flat tire, coming forward as a witness and saying, I saw him, this is where I saw him. This case was all wrapped up in a neat, tidy package. They were guaranteed. They were 100% guaranteed a conviction. And this is what makes me so angry, because had it gone to trial, he would have been convicted. So it should have only been the option of plead guilty or we go to trial. And it just is so painful to know that this mongrel was allowed to plead no contest, that he's never had to face up to what he did, and he's still denying anything to do with it. Yep. That sums up Will J perfectly, doesn't it? We're not worried about what you said before, Jen. It's all just dirt under the bridge. There is no doubt in my mind that Jen knew. As we get further through these interviews, you will see her priority was protecting Stearns. Her priority was never about Maddie. She got off scot-free and he got a no contest. I agree. Because he went back the night after he left her there. He would have gone back. I think it was a gamble arresting him when they did. because they could have put a tracker on both those vehicles. And he would have led them back there so easily. Yep. This was a slam dunk case. It really was. Well, not only that, but she claims that she was woken up by Stefan coming in to get Sailor to take him for a walk. She claims that she woke up when she heard noises in the kitchen. Well, she said the reason that Maddie was staying with her and the reason that she had Stearns there to help her with Maddie was because if Maddie was staying at Yolanda's, that she wouldn't get to see her. So the whole premise here is the reason Maddie was at home with Jenn was so she could see her. And yet there's nothing here where she suggests that she even thought of getting up to just say, good morning, I hope you have a good day at school. I mean, if she heard noises in the kitchen, if she woke up enough to hear Stefan putting a lead on Sailor, then you would wake up when your daughter came into the room to get her meds, when she came through the room to go to the bathroom, to brush her hair, do her teeth, all these things, do her makeup. You never once hear her question, oh, I didn't hear her come in to get her meds or do her makeup. You never hear her say that she had asked Stefan if Maddie had taken her meds. Because usually Maddie takes her ADHD meds of a morning before school. So apparently she woke up, she was disturbed enough to wake up when he was in there with Sailor, when people were in the kitchen. But she's not aware of the fact that her daughter never came into the room to get ready for school. Exactly. I'd be doing the questioning. Not only that, but if he's supposed to be taking Maddie to school and they're very evasive, they don't admit that he'd never done it before. This is one of those things that both of them steer around very well, not so well, but they do. They avoid answering properly if he's ever taken Maddie to school before. And it's Maddie's best friend who says, no, he's never done it before. But why wasn't she asking questions over how early they went? Why wasn't she asking questions over why she didn't hear Maddie come in to get her meds and get ready? And why would you not wake up and get up to double check with Stearns that he knew what the whole routine was? Because according to Jenn, she needs Stearns there so he can get Maddie ready for school, so he can drive Maddie for school. So if we're going to stick with the let's infantilize Maddie, then if we're going to infantilize Maddie like Jenn was doing, then we have to presume that Maddie's not going to know how to tell Stearns what the routine is for dropping her off. But no, Jenn didn't worry, didn't wake up, didn't didn't bother about, getting up to just make sure that Stearns knew how it all worked, or to get up and make sure that you just said to your daughter, have a good day. It's complete utter BS. And it's things like that to me show, yeah, he's the stupidest person, but she didn't need to get up to make sure that he knew the deal in terms of the drop-off. The way Jenn talks about Maddie, you'd think that Maddie didn't even know how to dress herself. Maddie was actually out of area. So the school where she was enrolled was, I'm going to presume, back in 2020, Jenn, Stefan and Maddie were living further down south, down near Stefan's parents' place. And when that all went pear-shaped, probably because they weren't keeping up with rent, in my opinion, Jenn moved back to Yolanda's place and was at Yolanda's place for a while before they moved into the townhouse. So it's my belief that Maddie was probably enrolled in that district originally because they were at Yolanda's. And then Jenn, being the sloth that she is, probably just never bothered to sort things out. So Maddie just kept going to the same area. Or maybe it was because it was convenient for Jenn because Yolanda's office was nearby. Because I don't think we ever got enough answers in terms of how often Maddie was at Yolanda's through the week. But there wasn't a bus for Maddie because she was out of area, so she had to be driven to and from school. It's horrible. It truly is. When I listen to the way she talks about Maddie, it truly makes me question if she ever loved her daughter. Now, there's a lot of beautiful photos of Maddie from an early age. I think Jenn enjoyed being able to dress Maddie up because Maddie was a beautiful, beautiful child. I think Maddie was a bit of a trophy for Jenn. Dress her up, take beautiful photos. But she didn't really care because Jenn only ever cared about herself. Oh. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's why we had the change of detectives partway through. The condo is in Osceola County, which is where Maddie should have been going to school. But the school is in Orange County. So clearly they were using Yolanda's address by the sound of it. So that's Letitia. She was quite observant, wasn't she? So Maddie's step aunt, Letitia. Not the youngest one, so not Letitia. I don't know her name. Said she felt Maddie was more of a sister. That tells me that Maddie spent a lot of time at Jen's mum's house. I think you're right. I do think you're right. even if we look at when Maddie was reported missing, who was it that jumped into action? Straight up, it was Letitia. Yep. Jenn didn't want Maddie. Jenn didn't care about Maddie. Maddie should have been living with Tyler or with Yolanda. Step aunt. Jen's father and mother were separated. So Yolanda, I believe, remarried, and her husband had daughters from another marriage. But it was that kind of close-knit situation where Letitia and that were, you know, so very closely part of that family. So it was like an aunt to Maddie, even though she was only a step aunt. I think, yeah, she definitely wanted Maddie there for financial reasons. I wonder too if there was that part of her that recognised that Stefan only stuck around because of Maddie. Because of Maddie. And so it was like a dangling a carrot. If she didn't have Maddie there with her, Stefan wasn't going to come back. And it was convenient for her to have Stefan around. We've never really nailed why it was convenient for Jenn to have Stefan around. But I suspect he was providing her with something. There was a benefit for Jenn to have Stefan around. But for him to be around, she needed to have Maddie there as an incentive. And dare I say it, Maddie was also there because Jenn didn't like getting intimate. My belief is that the reason she was so happy to accept what was happening, what Stearns was doing, was because it meant she didn't have to get intimate with him. He never would have stuck around. If Maddie wasn't there, he would have been long gone. Jenn knew that. I never heard either of them say that they had ever loved each other. It sounds like it was an on-again, off-again relationship. Before he moved out in the December, they'd been broken up for a year. He had, after they broke up, he'd stayed sharing Jen's room for 6 months. And then about 6 months before he moved out, she basically booted him and sent him upstairs. So to me, it just feels like from the beginning it was probably a convenient relationship. They were both getting something out of it, while poor little Maddie was dying more and more inside because of what they were doing to her. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there because we're heading up towards 3 hours. Yeah, they broke up a year before he moved out. They continued to share a bed with Maddie in between for 6 months. and then Jenn booted him upstairs. There's never been anything come out from either of them that would suggest that there was ever any spark between them at all. Just some sort of convenience thing. And Maddie's the one that paid for it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there so I can go get some lunch. I can't believe the dogs have slept through because it was so cold. They haven't actually been out this morning yet. They went out at like 6 o'clock. They usually go out when we get up again. Thanks for coming in, people. I really appreciate you coming in, and I really appreciate you taking the time to once again talk about Maddie, because I think it is important. I think the world needs to know how much she's been let down. Anyway, thanks for coming in. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button on the way out. That helps me out a lot. If you're new, please subscribe. If you're on replay, please leave a comment. And in terms of leaving comments, as many comments as you wish to make, it really helps with the engagement for my channel. It helps me get my videos out there into the algorithm if people are commenting on my videos. So on that note, thank you. I will do another Maddie one next week, next Monday. And I'll catch you in the next one.
Sometimes